Hello.
Because
Hello.
okay.
Ah,
I hope you are back. Because you are back.
okay, sir. Okay, then we can start now. I welcome Jason Miss for the welcome speech. Jason Miss, can you hear me?
Tessin Sebastian, I am trying to unmute you, asking you to unmute.
Okay, Jason Sebastian.
Okay,
Yeah,
sir. Thank
now you may.
Okay, Jason Sebastian here. Okay, once again, on behalf of Commerce Department, I welcome to all for our webinar. I invite Ms. Tessin Sebastian, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, for the welcome address.
Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Postgraduate Department of Commerce, LISA College, it's my great pleasure to welcome one and all to today's webinar titled Is COVID-19 is a Reset Button for Business by Professor Rishikesh KB. In this occasion, I feel grateful to welcome Very Reverend Father Jose Melotukochil CST, Director of LISA College. Welcome, Father. I would also like to welcome our beloved Principal, Dr. Benny Joseph, to this session. Welcome, sir. I heartily extend my welcome to Very Reverend Father Bobby Pullolikal, Manager of LISA, and Very Reverend Father Niju Talachira, Vice Principal of LISA. Welcome, Father Bobby and Father Niju. It's my great pleasure to welcome our resource person, Professor Rishikesh KB, to this session. Welcome you, sir. About the resource person, Professor Rishikesh KB, he is currently working as a faculty of School of Commerce, Finance and Accountancy at Christ University, Bangalore. He is an alumnus of Delhi School of Economics. He holds MPhil in Commerce and Management subjects. He has teaching experience of 10 years in institutions like Prudence Women's College, FIMS Calicut, SRCC Delhi, and Christ University, Bangalore. He worked as Senior Research and Publications Associate at IIM Calicut. He has 30 publications in peer-reviewed journals and a book translation titled Globalization and Changed Society to his credit. He is a life member of All India Management Association, All India Commerce Association, All India Management Scholars Association, and Bangalore Management Association. Once again, I welcome all the participants to the webinar titled Is COVID-19 is a Reset Button for Business by Professor Rishikesh KB. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Benny Joseph, Principal of LISA, for a few words. Over to you, sir, Dr. Benny Joseph.
I think Beni sir will join with us later. Okay, I think we can directly hand over, or very directly can start our session, the most awaited session of our program. We will invite our faculty or our resource person, Rishikesh, for the session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the host, the organizers of this event, for that very detailed and elaborate introduction. Now, do I have the screen sharing rights right now? Can I do that right now? I think somebody else has to switch off this screen
Okay,
sharing.
Sure. So
one second.
I'll just share. I'll stop share my screen. You may begin with your screen.
All right, sir.
And one important thing, all the participants, please note that, please switch off your camera and mic. All the participants, please switch off your camera and mic.
Rishikesh sir, you may now share your screen. I hope
All
it's
right.
available
All right.
for you now.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes.
Wonderful. So good afternoon to you all, and a big namaste to all of you. I hope you know what namaste signifies. It says, I respect the divine spirit which is present in you and me in equal measure, which means all of us are equal in some of the other respects. And also, I've used this slide more because I don't want to place myself at a higher pedestal and preach a lot of things which probably, if you look at the number of people who have registered, I'm told yesterday that around 700 plus people, as of maybe around 1:30 today, it was around 760 plus people who've registered across the globe and they're watching it online. And the collective wisdom of most of what all of you are holding is much higher than the little insights which I'm going to share probably in the next 2 hours of the interaction that we have planned as part of this webinar. So what I would at the outset prefer to say is, as a disclaimer, I'm not an expert in this subject. All the ideas that I'm going to share is probably out of my personal interest in this topic, and also a little bit of additional reading which I've done, mostly because I wanted to stay updated. I wanted to stay relevant. I wanted to find out what exactly is happening. And it so coincided that this Lisa College had planned for such a session. And I, at the outset, thank and appreciate the confidence which this institution has reposed in me. Special thanks to Professor Vikas and his team who had initiated this conference or initiated this webinar. And I also need to thank Professor Lijesh, who's also my colleague, who had given a reference that here is such a person who could talk about this. Thank you very much, Professor Lijesh, sir. And above all, I think I must thank all of you who've come, who've decided to spend some time with me. Because you could have been elsewhere. You could have done multiple other things. You could have gone for a movie. You could have spent your time with your family, with your friends or your relatives, but you've chosen to spend some quality time and have some sort of a positive engagement and some sort of an academic discussion, which I hope all of us will benefit. Above all, I also hope and wish that all of you are staying healthy and safe. And as I said, as there are so many people across the globe, it actually increases my responsibility. So at the outset, let me say once again, thank you to the management and also to all the team who are working hard to make this possible. And also thanking all the participants who have registered and have come online. Well, as an academician, when I say academician, I work as a faculty. I work as a professor in a university. at Bangalore, Christ University in the Department of Commerce, Finance and Accountancy. As an academician, if I do a self-assessment, I tend to get confused sometimes when I step out of my classroom. The most pertinent question which I always have is, am I relevant, as a faculty at the individual level? And I try to kind of correlate it with the organization that I work. Is the organization that I represent and also I work for standing relevant? That's something which I always get confused. And that is what I'm trying to answer as well. When I say I'm trying to answer, believe me, I'm not here because I have an answer to all your questions, but because I have a lot of questions to which I'm seeking an answer. All right, so I've been doing some sort of additional reading, some sort of research based out of my own interest, trying to find answers. And all the knowledge or the wealth of ideas that I'm going to share with you, I'm standing on the shoulders of several researchers. And most of these research ideas are not my own, as I've mentioned earlier. Individual researchers and organizations like IMF, World Bank, McKinsey, Deloitte, and a lot of other organizations whom we consider as a reliable and valuable source of research, which they bring out quite often. So it's just a collation of ideas which I've come across and which I've found interesting. When I say I'm confused, it's not because I lack clarity, it's because I'm seeking clarity. A couple of years back, I joined Christ in 2010 and I took a break and rejoined in 2017. And the first task in the department meeting that was assigned by the dean of my university, who's also my PhD guide, Professor Tommy K. Kallerikal, he asked me, Rishi, what is the change that you've seen in the past 2 years when you were not there in this campus? As I said, I took 2 years break from that campus and I started working at the Indian Institute of Management in the Research and Publications Division, and then I rejoined. Now, that time when Tommy sir had asked me to share what I feel, I was also reading a book called Corporate Chanakya, which is quite popular, one of the best books on strategy. I was reading that book and there is a beautiful narration of a small context. And I actually said the same context because that's what I felt at that moment when he raised that question. And the context is somewhat like this. Well, there is a bike expedition group. And the team leader of this bike expedition group said, we all need to meet because I have an important announcement to make. And it was a campfire and this team leader makes this announcement. The announcement is, dear friends, there is a good news and there is also a bad news. There is a good news, there's also a bad news. The good news is that we've traveled more than what we had initially planned for. We had these destinations, but we have crossed more than what we had initially planned. And the bad news is that we are lost. We don't know where we are. We're completely lost. That is exactly what I felt. In 2 years, when I was not there in that campus, a lot of things had changed. There are a lot of positives which I could find. And there were also a lot of confusions, lack of clarity, a lot of bad, and I'm not saying bad, a lot of challenges which has come up. And those challenges are that the students' expectations had changed. The faculty's expectations had changed. The usage of technology had become rampant. Research was given a lot of importance. The entire dynamics of how the academics functioned had changed in just 2 years. And I would always say that what had changed in 2 years was much more than what had changed in the past, I would say 8 to 9 years, which I had associated with that institution. So the point which I'm trying to say is change is something which is very rapid these days. We always say what is unchanged about change is that changes will change. Change is something which is very constant, very rapid. So In that change which is happening, both at a personal level and also if you look at the organizational level, I tend to get confused. And that is when I sit back and kind of think about a lot of questions to which I'm trying to find an answer. And those questions and answers is what I'm trying to share with you. And as I've always said, all the ideas that I'm sharing with you are already available in different literatures. So it's just a collation of ideas which I found meaningful and sensible. A couple of reminders, which I'm sure the organizers have already shared with you. It's better that all of you switch off your audio and video. And if you have any questions, we have time reserved till the end of the session. It's better that you don't interfere during the course of presentation, but if you have any questions, let's take it up towards the end of it. And I've kind of designed this presentation in this manner. First, I'll share some of my insights on the topic that we have chosen for discussion. And then I've also invited two of my students who are entrepreneurs themselves, but very established entrepreneurs. So they'll be sharing how they manage their organization for close to about 3 to 4 months post-lockdown. And then we'll wind up with some common thread. Later on, we'll kind of identify some pertinent questions, which I'm sure the organizers, the host would let us know. And then we'll take up those questions for discussion. That's the kind of rough format which I have, but always feel free to add on if you feel I'm factually incorrect, or if you feel there are more things to be shared, or if you think, what I'm looking at is also a constructive feedback, that is always welcome. Yeah. So on that note, let's begin. Well, I would always prefer having discussions using this experiential learning cycle of Globe. People across the globe, whoever is watching this online, you all come with a wealth of experience. And that wealth of experience could be academic experience. It could be research experience. It could be industry experience, on-field, on-ground experience. So multiple sorts of experience that you all come up with. Now, second is a phase of reflective observation. That is something which I believe all of us are doing right now. We've got it's a God-given time for all of us to sit back and reflect on what we are doing and what was working and what was not working. Yeah, that is exactly what we are doing. And what is the intent behind this reflection? What's the intent behind this whole interaction? We need to conceptualize, we need to have some takeaways, we need to learn some ideas from each other, and then we intend to go back and experiment in whichever field we are working in. It could be in the field of academics, it could be back in your business, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be research, in whatever all of us are involved in. So what I'm trying to say is we are here to sit back and reflect and observe on what we are doing and what we are not doing, what is working and what is not working. And let's kind of learn from each other. That's the whole exercise that we'll be doing in the next 2 hours of time that we're going to spend together. First thing, I'm not going to share my PowerPoint presentation. That's the first thing to don't like some of the students at the fag end of a semester when the exams are near, they would come back and ask, can I have your PowerPoint? They won't be sitting and listening in my class sometimes, and I'm not saying everyone, but there is a few. Don't be like those students. I want you all to pay attention the next 2 hours of time that we're spending. And because PowerPoint doesn't matter. What we do on field really matters. So if you find anything interesting, you can make a note of it or take a note of it and go back and practice. Let's continue this conversation that you're trying to build through this small webinar. I'm always available. I'll be sharing both my personal contact as also my professional contacts. We could stay connected and try to continue this conversation, even if it stands abrupt at some point of our discussion. All right, so don't expect PowerPoint presentations. Well, now let's get into the topic, setting a reset button for business. Now, when I talk about setting a reset button, we need to look at it from two perspectives. First is, as an individual, let's say as a faculty, as a teacher, as an academician, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, how do I stay relevant? Yeah. So at an individual, you need to delve and kind of think back. And also at an organizational level, in whichever sort of organization that you're a part of, that you're representing, at an organizational level, how does organization become relevant? So I'll be talking more in the context of a business, but I mean, this is something which I would kind of request all of you to seriously take into account. Individually, how do I stand relevant? Organizational level, how do I stand relevant? All right. Okay. Is anyone who knows Chinese? I mean, anybody who could read this? This is how you write crisis in Chinese. All right. This is how you write Chinese in, crisis in the language Chinese. But if you take these characters, which reads as crisis, there are two connotations to it. There are two interpretations to it. One says disaster, and the other says opportunity. Well, that is exactly what we are going to discuss. Every disaster, every crisis, every challenge comes with an opportunity. There is a silver lining in the cloud gathering. In almost all crises, there is a possibility. So how do we create that possibility is what we are going to discuss. All right. How do we create at an individual level and also at an organizational level? So I'll be sharing various thoughts, and as my professor, one of my most, I've never missed his classes. There's this Professor A.F. Matthew at IIM Kozhikode, one of the most sought after professor at IIM. He used to say whenever he discussed an idea, just think about it. You know, that is something which I would urge from all the participants. Just think about the ideas that I'm going to share with you. All right. Okay. So here we go. I'm sure you've heard about this person called Donald Rumsfeld. He made a brilliant statement which is relevant in multiple contexts. He said there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are also unknown unknowns. This is true with any crisis. This is true with any discipline that we learn. This is true with any venture that we are into, whether it is business, whether it is research, whether it is into teaching. I'm referring to these three because that's the broader demographics which I found when I was going through the registrations. We have got around 760 registrations. Most of them are researchers. Most of them are academicians, faculties at various institutions. So I'm just referring to those three. I mean, say be any discipline, there are known knowns. A lot of things that we know, a lot of things that we know that we don't know, and there are a lot of things which are unknown unknowns. Yeah, this is true with the current crisis that we are in, which let's refer to it as the pandemic or the COVID, whatever it is. But on the other hand, there is another way of looking at it. When I said, in Chinese, when you write crisis, there is an opportunity is also a disaster that you look at. There are a lot of things that you cannot control. All right. What is 4IR? I am referring to it as the fourth industrial revolution. I'll be talking a little bit because I feel the current crisis that most of the organizations are in is not only because of this pandemic. The uncertainty had actually started probably around 10 years back. Yeah, when we had this fourth industrial revolution. So I'll be talking a bit about fourth industrial revolution and then also the kind of the virus and its related crisis. Then talk about news and infodemics. I mean, this is something which is not in our control. Closing of academic institutions is not in our control. Reactions of the government is not in our control. And a lot of other things are not in our control. But what is it in our control? There are a lot of things which are in our control. Your mood, your reactions, your decisions, a lot of things are in our control. So what mood do we set in the organization that we work? What mood do we set for ourselves? How do we react? I think the better word would have been respond. Reaction is quite impulsive. Respond is a little more thoughtful. So how do we respond? And what kind of decisions do we make, is something that we have in control. So I've divided the whole presentation into three. First, I'll talk about triage. Second, about the transition and transformation. For those of you who are not familiar with the word triage, triage is, a sort of urgency. It's mostly used in the medical context. It's a sort of an urgency to decide on which wounds, which illness to be treated first. You decide an order in which things are to be treated. Has to be done in a crisis. This has to be done in any challenge. I think in project management, we teach something called VED analysis: vital, essential, and desirable. The most important things to be addressed, then the essential things, and then the desirable ones. Similarly, in triages, where we prioritize what needs to be addressed. So the first part of my presentation is about the triage. Second is about the transitions which are happening, both at the individual. I'll be using the word individual and organizational. One is what sort of transition has to happen at the individual level and also at the organizational level. And third is what is the transformation that individually and organizational level we are looking at? How do we survive this crisis? How do we survive this pandemic? How do we, kind of build a resilience amidst all the chaos and the confusion that we're currently in? So that's the broader framework on which I'll be doing my presentation. Okay, let's begin with the triage. I hope you've got an idea as to what is triage. It's about prioritizing what needs to be addressed, which is mostly used in the medical context. Now, let me begin with a small exercise. How many of you can relate with this document? This was a document which prevailed in India, and then I'm going back to the history, and which was mandatory for all those who had an electronic television or a radio. This is a license which you had to renew every 6 months. All right. So you call it the radio television license. And I still remember my grandparents used to say that in television, half the movie was shown on a Saturday and the rest half was shown on Sunday. And that too only one movie in a week. That is how it was about, I would say, 30, 40 years back, close to 35 years back. All right. But today, fast forward, in marketing, there is a concept called agony of choice. We are confused as to with the number of options that we all have. So many channels, so many news channels. So my point here is till 1985, 15 rupees was the license fee for the radio and 50 rupees for television. And if you're carrying any of these gadgets, you had to even take a ticket. All right. That was the scenario till 1985. I'm so sorry, it was not 1983, it is 1985. Okay. I'm just giving you a broader context. I want you all to cross connect these points and later make sense out of because probably towards the end, you would understand why I'm discussing this broader historical perspective, why I'm creating a macro perspective to understand the challenge or the crisis that we're currently in. Now, this date has an historical importance. 6th of August, 1991. Any guesses? If you have an answer, you could shoot out your answers in the chat box. Well, 6th of August is when I would say it's a great historical divide which has happened, because that's when internet became accessible for all of us. Internet became accessible for the public. And this date, I would say, is historical because from local and linear, things had become global and exponential. Again, I would say, think about it from an individual perspective as also an organizational perspective. The opportunities at the same time, the challenges had also come with it. Local opportunities and linear opportunities had become global and exponential. Now, it is post 1991, we got an abundance of information with our access to internet. People have started going abroad for job, increased in number, for their higher studies, increased in number, organizations having presence from local to global. I mean, also I always say this to my students, once you post your resume or your CV in one of the job portals, your competition is not confined to the place where you belong to. The competition becomes global. At the same time, the opportunities also become global. This is true with individuals as much as it is true with organizations. So from linear and local to global and exponential is a major change which happened post 1991, 6th of August. So the first I was referring to how in 1985, the opportunities of entertainment through radio, or not just entertainment, infotainment, information with entertainment that we have had access to was limited. Post 1991, we've had enough and abundance of knowledge explosion had happened, as also the opportunities and challenges had happened post 1991. That's another thing. Fast forward, I'm cutting a long story short. Today, we live in an era of Internet of Things, IoT. I don't think I need to explain it, because this is something which is being discussed quite often. What is Internet of Things? Just imagine all the gadgets that we're using currently gets connected to internet. That is Internet of Things, as simple as that. Already we've started experiencing it. You have your automobile, you have your mobile, your watch, you have your refrigerator, your television, your cooking devices. Everything is connected to internet. That is Internet of Things, as simple as that. In fact, I came across a shoe which is connected to internet. It's based out of Bangalore. No, I think Bangalore or Hyderabad, I'm not very sure. There's this company called Lechal, Lechal. Lechal is a Hindi word. Take me in, or I don't know how it literally gets translated. And this Lechal shoes has Wi-Fi embedded, just imagine a world where everything that you're using is connected to internet. That's Internet of Things. Now, I came across a refrigerator. I don't want to mention the name of the company because they are yet to commercialize it, and the research has already happened, and the gadget is also developed. This refrigerator can be operated within a radius of 20 or 30 kilometers. And it also has artificial intelligence, which keeps a track of the food items that you store. And whenever it gets over, the refrigerator on its own would place an order. And by the time you're back from office, the product is delivered at your doorstep. Amazing. I mean, that's Internet of Things for you. Now, when I say all this, Internet of Things is just one of the aspects of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, all what I was talking about is the different phases of industrialization which has happened. The initial one was in 1784, where we had steam engine. Then 1870, we had mass production with larger production units, bigger companies becoming functional. And then in early 1970s, I guess in India, it was late 1980s or early 1990s that computer and automation became common. And today, what we are talking about is the fourth phase of industrialization, which is the Industry 4.0. So I'll be spending some time on this because the current challenge, current crisis, which most of the organizations are in, or even individuals are in, is not just because of this pandemic. The kind of uncertainty, the kind of confusion, the chaos, panic had already started probably around 10 years back. So what is that panic is what I'll try to kind of elaborate. So what is fourth industrial revolution? No, this is just a gist of things that can be kind of summarized in fourth industrial revolution. You have mobile devices. I mean, mobile is a huge source of staying connected, huge device with, umpteen of options. You have almost everything confined to one small gadget. It has become a kind of an extended part, organ of your body, of our body. So mobile, then Internet of Things platforms, location detection technologies. When I say location detection technologies, let me tell you that there are 2 countries which has made chipping in the body of a newborn baby not mandatory, but they've given that option. Sweden has made it mandatory, and Australia, one of the small cities in Australia, had also made it a kind of an option. Now, what is this chip? Every newborn baby would be embedded with a small chip, which becomes a substitute for all the cards that we hold today. Driving card, driving license, then PAN card, then Aadhaar card, you have bank credit card. All of those gets replaced with just a single chip. And the extended version of this is that there are tattoos of this chip, which can be removed from your body. Now, why is this happening? No, I always quote this example. I have a lot of my friends working in the IT sector in Bangalore. And one of the most difficult problem in Bangalore is, biggest challenge in Bangalore is get a domestic help. Some of you who are from Bangalore or from any other metro cities would also be able to relate with what I'm trying to say. So what most of them do, and we can't trust also the kind of people that you get. So what these people in the IT sector are doing is they will install a CC camera at home and they carry 2 laptops. And in one laptop, they would monitor what is happening at home, and in the other one, they would do their work. I mean, that's how they balance, if at all we may call it a personal life as also the professional life. Amazing way. I mean, so why is this, why did I bring this example here? It's because when you embed a newborn baby with a chip, you can actually trace, you don't need to have a CC camera. You can trace where the baby is moving around, whether, when they grow up, they are attending the classes, where you can keep a track of things. When location detection technologies are kind of evolving as part of the 4th industrial revolution. Then you have advanced human machine interfaces, the kind of developments happened in through Sophia, which is a kind of robot which had even got citizenship in the Middle East. Authentication and fraud detection, 3D printing. What is 3D printing? Anything that you imagine can be printed using this 3D printing. In fact, a whole building was constructed, was just printed using a printer. So there are smart sensors, there is big data analytics, there is augmented reality. One of my good friends is working, his Srinath Murchilot, he is working on hologram, holography technology, which could, and I never thought something which was only researched in MIT and Stanford could be possible in my home state, in a very small city in Kerala. So cloud computing, that is also going to be. So if you look at all of these, most of the organizations have now realized the importance and the implications of all of these devices, because that's the future for most of the business groups to survive. So that's another point which I wanted to bring in. Now, for those of you who have been in my classes, I understand that a couple of my students are also attending this webinar, and a lot of my colleagues, some of my friends. I have a small pattern which I follow to build an argument. Probably for you, those of you who are familiar with my presentations might find this a little repetitive, but this is how I kind of intend to build an argument. Now, let me ask a question here. This was at the initial phase of industrialization. We spoke about 4 different phases of industrialization. You get to see a person doing something. What is he doing? He's reading out something, and you also get to see a lot of people, they're doing their work. Now, this was considered one of the highest paid job in the initial phase of industrialization. And the name of this profession is LECTOR, which is lector. LECTOR, lector, not lecturer, it is lector. Now, I have another image over here, pretty much similar. Now, why did I bring this for the discussion? Do you get to see this job now? We don't see a lector these days in any of the organizational premises. So one point which I'm trying to bring in here is, a lot of jobs which were prevailing in the initial phases of industrialization is going to vanish. And that is what a report which came in 2017 December, which is the McKinsey's jobs report, which says that by 2030, 30% of the current job which people are involved in will get automated. And 75 million to 375 million people are going to lose their job, which means it's time that we as individuals realize what is going to change. Do we stay relevant? Will our organization stay relevant? That's a perspective on which we need to build our kind of argument and kind of build our conversations. So just one thing which I wanted to say is, as per this report, 400 million people are going to lose their job by 2030, which is not very far, hardly 10 years ahead. 400 million people are going to lose their job. I'm not going into the details, but these are, whatever references I'm giving, please do read more and try to understand the broader context which I'm trying to set for this discussion. Yeah, I've kind of made a reference here and there. So if you find it interesting, please do bring in your classroom conversations or wherever you find it relevant. And what is the kind of implication this mechanization is going to bring in? As I said, 400 million, 9% of the work hours in India is going to get automated. In United States, it's pretty more, and the highest is in Germany. 24% of the work hours will get automated, will get mechanized, which means people will get substituted with technology. Yeah, that's the kind of future that we are heading towards. Now, it's not something which is there in a report or a research article. I have concrete examples. Now, how many of you have heard about this hotel called Flyzoo? Flyzoo is a hotel owned by Alibaba Group. And the amazing thing about this hotel is there is absolutely zero human intervention. Right from entry till exit, there is zero human intervention. So business models have already started adopting technology wherein they don't need people, they need technology. They would fulfill their work. They would, kind of do their work only with technology. That's enough. Technology is enough. And I don't want to again quote the name of the IT firm. One of the IT firm in Bangalore, they've bought 4 robots which could actually replace the working hours of almost 20 laborers' job. One day work can be done in just 5 minutes by all these robots. Just 5 minutes, which means a lot of human labor will get replaced with this technology. I don't want to play this video. Okay. Now, don't think that it is only confined to business. It has also come to our office spaces. How many of you are familiar with this person called Ashok K. Goyal? He's one of the most sought after faculty on artificial intelligence. And he did an experiment. It's very interesting. For those academicians and researchers, this might be interesting because Ashok, what he did is, Ashok K. Goyal, professor, there's this concept of teaching assistants. Yeah, along with the actual faculty, you also take 1 or 2 for the kind of classroom administration, taking attendance, conducting quizzes and all of that. So one day he had a teaching assistant called Phil Robbins. I'm not very sure of the name, but Phil is his first name. And what happens is, after about a couple of weeks, the students, especially the girls, were so impressed with this teaching assistant that some of them decided to fix a date with this teaching assistant. But later on inquiry, they found that this teaching assistant is not a person, but it is a chatbot, which means even in classrooms, technology has invaded. It's not just happening abroad, it has also happened in Bangalore. There is this school called Indus International School where a teacher is replaced with a robot, which means no profession has a future without usage or without upskilling ourselves, without outperforming the technology, which is certainly going to invade our personal life as also our professional life. So that's the point which I wanted to bring in. Now, think about this. Personal assistants, you have Siri, Home, Alexa, that would get replaced. AI lawyers, we have technology called ROS, 90% of accuracy in decision-making than 70% for humans. We have doctors, autonomous drivers, AI investors, facial recognition, which means almost every profession is under threat. Doctors are losing job in US because you just enter your problem online. The cloud server gives you a perfect, a precise solution. So is the case with lawyers. Lawyers are losing job. Accountants are losing job because all those repetitive, monotonous work is getting replaced with technology. So the point here is, how do you build an organization? How do you build a business group which stands relevant, which can outperform technology? How do you become relevant? How do we as individuals become relevant? These are two questions which I'm kind of trying to discuss throughout this conversation that we're trying to build in. So this was a kind of a broader context that I've set for the discussion. I still haven't started my presentation. This is the kind of a broader macro perspective I thought I'll build on. I kind of found two interesting articles. I'll just summarize it. The Future Shock. It came in the week, and they mentioned 5 indicators of this fourth industrial revolution. One is AI and the intelligence explosion, which is going to happen. The other one is the gene editing. Quite interesting. The second one is biotechnology. The third one is gene editing. And in gene editing, you have even designer babies, which means you don't have to do that. You can actually design babies. You could actually design babies and custom design the intelligence, the custom design the qualities, the color, the traits, what you want. You could actually do that. I mean, this was an interesting cartoon which I came across. Less effort and more comfort. You have tech tycoons. You could buy golden athlete. You could music genius. Anything is possible with gene editing. Now, brain hacking is another interesting technology which is going to invade our personal lives, also in our professional life. Nanotechnology is going to happen. And this kind of, one of my good friends had shared this, Dr. Jayant Thomas, he'd written an article in Manorama, which kind of summarizes what all makes the fourth industrial revolution. This is what is going to invade into our personal as also a professional life. And there's a beautiful article written by a professor, the Dawn of Singularity. Please do read that. I mean, I'm just giving you references so that I'm just creating a curiosity for you to kind of read more and understand the kind of uncertainty, the kind of complexity that we are going to deal with in our life ahead, both at the individual level as also the organizational level. Yeah, the Dawn of Singularity. Brilliant. Ray Kurzweil is the one who had written this amazing article. Now, when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, I started my discussion with fourth industrial revolution. It is unprecedented. It is not like a computer. The person behind Tesla Motors, even he had said that it is like the artificial intelligence is like a nuclear bomb. It is more catastrophic than any other technology that human beings have invented so far. And so is the emotion, so is the thought shared by Jack Ma. AI will cause more people pain than happiness. A key social conflict will be the rise of artificial intelligence. There'll be longer life expectancy. Of course, science will advance, but at the same time, there'll be an aging workforce fighting for fewer jobs. So this is how you'll have to think about at your individual and the organizational level. How do we fight all these challenges? Yeah, all right. Let me go to the next slide. Now, what are the basic challenges, or what are the fundamental challenges of artificial intelligence? Among multiple other things, I'm speaking more about artificial intelligence because it is more catastrophic, as is pointed out by several researchers, than any other technological innovation. World Economic Forum had beautifully summarized it in an article, and they identify a list of challenges. One, of course, is unemployment. This is going to rise for sure. What will happen after the end of jobs? As I said, 400 million is not a small number. 2030 is not far ahead, just 10 years ahead. A lot of jobs are going to become redundant or completely outdated. Second is inequality. The divide between the haves and the have-nots will, in economics, there is this Gini coefficient that we, discuss, the kind of divide between the rich and the poor. Now, what is interesting here is the technology is going to replace human beings, but technology, they don't need money. People need money. So who will get the money that these technology, to whom will you distribute the money that they're generating? Which means only few people can afford technology or artificial intelligence or whatever we are talking about. And that distribution of wealth would get confined to very few people, which means there is a rise of inequality. That is another thing which we need to be really worried about. Humanity, how do machines affect our behavior and interaction? Can we even go wrong when everything is going to be very precise, accurate, when there is a lot of information explosion? Is there even a possibility of things going wrong? Can there be serendipity? Serendipity is a concept that sometimes we end up experimenting and discover new things. Will that happen, or will everything become singular in artificial stupidity? This is a brilliant way of looking at it. Artificial intelligence is fine, but what about artificial stupidity? What if technology goes wrong? Who will take the accountability of it? That's an amazing perspective. Raises Robert. Once the technology itself starts thinking, they might turn racist. Security, ethical aspects, security aspect of the data, privacy, ethics, that is another. Evil genies, singularity, robotic rights, unintended cost. So lots of things. I'm not delving deep into these aspects, but that's another article which I want you to read further and understand the challenges of artificial intelligence. And they talk in depth about the fourth industrial revolution as well. Now, coming to this aspect, which is more about privacy and ethics. A very lighter way of presenting it, my wife asked me why I spoke so softly in the house. I said I was afraid of Mark Zuckerberg. She laughed, I laughed, Alexa laughed, and Siri laughed, which means there's nothing private that we'll have in our life ahead. Everything, this is what even Mark Zuckerberg had said. In technology, in front of technology, you are stripped naked. There is nothing that you can say is private. Everything is public. Everything is captured. What you like, what you comment, what you write in social media, the places where you tag, all of those are captured for some of the other reasons. The places that you visit is all captured, and there's a huge database for the travel companies. What political stance that you take in the social media, it's captured for the news, the print and the news media. So all of those are captured without your knowledge, without your consent. So ethics is another thing. Privacy is another thing, which, privacy is a myth. As much as democracy is a myth, privacy is also going to be a myth. Now, all what I was talking about is the age of change. Things were changing. And you would find that it's absolutely chaotic everywhere. I haven't spoken anything positive. Mostly what I've been talking till now was chaotic, confusion, lack of clarity. We don't know what is going to happen, uncertainty. This has happened in our personal life as much as it has happened in organizations. Now, this is beautifully being presented by this American Army, the US Army, and they've used a term called VUCA. VUCA, which is also used in this fourth industrial revolution chaos context, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Yeah? Everything has become volatile, uncertain. We don't know whether we'll have job, what we have now may be relevant tomorrow. Complex things are becoming. Do you think mobile phones have eased our life? No, it has made our life more and more complicated. You don't have a network, that is one problem. You don't have a Wi-Fi, that is another problem. You have a Wi-Fi, but you're not able to access certain, facilities, features in it. I mean, that's another problem. With every opportunity, there are also problems. With every kind of feature, with every kind of facility that comes up. So life is becoming more and more complex and complicated. And then the last one is ambiguity. So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is going to be the kind of an order of the day. That's another aspect which I wanted to bring in. So we're also becoming, so what I was trying to talk about is the first phase of the discussion, which is about how much technology has invaded into our privacy and how much has it changed our personal life as also professional life, as also the organizations in which we are working. Now, let's come to the current crisis that all of us are a little apprehensive about. We don't know. We always talk about pre-COVID and post-COVID, but the reality is pre-vaccine and pro-vaccine. There is no pre-COVID, and because unless and until we invent a vaccine, everything is uncertain. We never know when it is going to happen. It's just experiments and a lot of claims here and there. So it's pre-vaccine. So I think just as we divided from 6th of August 1991 has been a historical year in terms of opportunities and in terms of several changes which has happened. I think 2021, though these are years which is going to become historical for so many reasons. So let's, for the time being, for the sake of convenience, let's take it as pre-COVID and post-COVID. Just take your own examples, try to relate with yourself. Earlier, the work was 9 to 5. My office timing starts at 9 o'clock, it gets over at 4 o'clock. And after that, it's not that I don't have work, but I had a record of the time that I spend in office, and then I knew what is my personal time. But future could be, even now, I don't know how many hours I spend every day. On an average, about 1 or 2 weeks back, I was calculating I'm spending roughly around 16 to 17 hours a day. My preparation is online, my delivery is online, the assignments are online, the assessments are online, the admission duty is online, the invigilation is online. Then after that, I'm looking for entertainment, that is also online. Look at the amount of screen time all of us are spending. And you don't know how much time that you spend. The work time is like anytime, anywhere. It could be anytime, anywhere in future as well. That could become the new normal. Yeah, that could become a new world order. So the past has been 9 to 5. Future could be anytime, anywhere. The company used to give equipments for you. There is a concept of build your own BYOD, build your own devices concept, which was becoming popular. And of course, for security reasons, but the future is you could use any device, but what would enhance, what most of the organizations would enhance is the security feature, even while you're working from home or work from anywhere. That is a new concept which State Bank of India has come up with. It's not work from home, it's work from anywhere. That's newer concepts are evolving, as and when we end up getting a new crisis. So what I'm trying to say in this slide, we were talking about the different challenges that the fourth industrial revolution has brought in. Now I'm talking about the kind of challenges that the current COVID and the pandemic has brought in. Now, if you look at the sectors which are hard hit by the recent pandemic, which are those sectors? There is hardly a sector which is not hit by this pandemic. Yeah, there are several. Almost every sector is really hard hit. I was talking to some of my students who are working in the hospitality sector, some of them who are in the airline sector. All of them are really hit bad. The most affected is hospitality, restaurant, the tourism sector, airline sector. Many are not paid because there is everything has become, the business has become standstill. Yeah, so it's almost every sector that is. I actually wanted to play a video, but I'm skipping for the lack of time. But on the whole, if you do a self-analysis, how is it that you are all impacted with this current crisis? One, is it that there's no impact? Is it that we've started working from home, or is it unemployed or underemployed? Underemployed is where you're paid less for what you're actually qualified for. Is it this what is happening, or is there something more? I think most of us would fall in that red zone, which I've marked in the screen. We are overwhelmed with work. We don't know how much time that we work. And in fact, one of my friend in Mahindra, he's a senior manager, he was telling, I don't know for the past 3 months what I'm doing to earn my bread and butter because I don't know what my office time is and what my personal timing is. And yeah, so both has become one. I mean, personal and office time has become one. Another scenario which is emerging is the kind of emotional problems, burnout, fatigue. Satya Nadella had said that it's not going to stay for long, this work from home, because it has unintended consequences, which are mostly psychological in nature. So this may not stay for long. That's one caution. I'm just giving you pointers. You'll be able to cross-connect all of this towards the end of my presentation. Yeah. So just keep all of these things in mind. Now, there was a lot of employees will have to leave the job poaching. If you look at US statistics, one out of every 5 US citizen is out of job. This is as per, if I'm not wrong, April 2020. As per April, so the crisis is not unlike what we had earlier. It is unprecedented. It is unimaginable. The consequences, the repercussions of it is unimaginable. Now, so as I said, almost every sector is really hit bad for this crisis, right? All right. And also, if you look at the global recession trends, IMF says that we are headed towards a severe recession than what it was in 1930s. We had a deep depression. It would be more severe than what it was. But do you think the kind of pandemic or the kind of crisis that we're currently in, or let's not call it a crisis, a challenge, that because that's how we find an opportunity, that the challenge that we're currently in is new? No, there were several pandemics, several crises, and we've come out of it. We've come with solutions. Now, let me look at some of the serious consequences of the current pandemic. I mean, I've relied on a report which came in Economic Times. It's a brilliant piece of work. I would urge you all to read that and also understand it's an amazing work. The first crisis is about the severe loss of job. Bloomberg predicts that 13% of global merchandise would come down. 32% would be the plunge as compared to the Great Depression of 1930. 32% more than what we had in 1930s. Global GDP is also set to decline 2.5% as per the World Trade Organization. And we are going to hear about unheard of job losses, the magnitude of layoff. You could even hear something like Zoom firing. You get a Zoom meeting and you are asked to leave the organization. It could be ping slips used through emails. You get a ping slip, asked to leave. It could also be a WhatsApp goodbye. So these things are expected. That's the first, severe loss of jobs. Second is salary cuts for many who are who do retain their jobs. If one is lucky enough to retain a job, even with job cuts or salary freezes, better hang on. And that is one strategy which, some of my students, they just called me up, during this crisis, and they said, sir, I had already resigned my current job and I was expecting a call from other company. But what has happened is neither am I placed here nor there. I mean, they are neither here nor there. That's a worst scenario, because they've been maintaining a certain standard of living and now they're relying on their parents, on somebody else who has to meet their expenses. So salary cuts, even if it's going to happen, it's better to hang on, because that's something which we can't help out. Economic Times survey says that more than 60% of the people whom they interviewed, they are expecting a salary cut. Older employees and mid-level employees are more at risk. And there's normally in HR literature, we talk something about last hired and first fired. I mean, the last one who are hired will be first fired, but that's not the case. Even older employees, there are a lot of concepts like right sizing. It's a very, very diplomatic way of presenting things. We are not downsizing, we are right sizing, right sizing, bright sizing, downsizing. All of these things are going to happen even at the people who are in the age range of 35 to 50, because they would prefer younger employees who are more, not in terms of experience, but in terms of newer skills. So that's another prediction as per this report. Now, another thing is anxiety, frustration. It has already begun. One of my friend, Advocate Saji, he's a legal advisor, MS Saji, is a legal advisor to one of the big business giants based out of the Middle East. And one fine evening, we end up hearing that he jumped off a building and he committed suicide. And he had actually invested in petroleum, expecting that there is a good future. But the entire mobility itself is on hold. None of us are taking our vehicles outside these days. Especially after the lockdown, the demand for petroleum had come down. I mean, anxiety, frustration, helplessness, even suicides are expected. Now, entrepreneurs are at risk. That's another aspect that we'll have to discuss. 57% of the business, the entrepreneurs in US are going to lose their business, and 2/3 is going to shut forever. That's what the predictions are. But in India, we have something called the fund of funds, which was offered by Nitin Gadkari, around 1,000 or 10,000 crores, announced for medium scale in industries in India. But if you take the statistics, around 110 million people are working in this medium scale enterprises, which is kind of contributing 30% to our GDP, which means a lot of our GDP is going to get affected. The employment is going to get affected. The medium scale and medium enterprises are also going to get affected. That's another. Frontline jobs. What is frontline jobs? People who work in the front line, like for instance, even amidst crisis, the police, the doctors, they were the front line fighters. So most of these those jobs would become less attractive because they are highly prone to the diseases. The jobs in contact with others. What are those jobs in contact with others? For example, doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers, firefighters, therapists, or delivery boys, retail sales, cashiers, restaurant servers, flight attendants, then probably the barbers, the fast food chains, all will become a less attractive job. So a lot of people won't go for that job. That's a business pandemic. Now, multiple jobs will have to rely on multiple sources of income. People will have to start working 2 or 3 jobs at a time. I'll talk about gig economy in the later phase of our discussion. That's also going to evolve. And informal economy is at tatters. Now, what is the informal economy? 450 million crores are in the informal sector, going by the statistic. When we talk about informal, the immigrant workers, the migrant workers, most of them are dejected and disappointed, especially by the way we have treated them during this crisis. I don't want to delve more into it because it's something really sad, and feel sometimes even apologetic of a lot of things that because of the helplessness that we are all in. Then another thing is overseas migration is also going to decline. In fact, the overseas education, a lot of students had this tendency of going abroad for their higher education. All those things are going to come down. In fact, I consider him as my mentor, Professor Kulbhushan Baluni. He's the director of IIM Kashipur currently. His son had actually taken admission in China, and I don't want to reveal the amount or the expense which they had to, but they decided to, drop, and they've taken admission at Christ now, which means, the expense which they, overseas migration for education, for job, all those would become a little less attractive. And teaching and learning, of course, this is a platform we are learning from each other, is also becoming more remote, more work from home, more online. Those are the kind of broader, see, when we talk about business, I can't only talk about one segment. When we need to have separate discussion for the Kirana stores, what are the challenges? We need to have a separate discussion for small enterprise. We need to have a separate discussion for medium scale, large enterprises. But I'm giving a broader, a macro perspective of which all sectors, in what all ways is it going to get affected, right? Okay, now I had also read an interesting article which was published by McKinsey. As I said, I mostly rely on McKinsey report, and which are reliable sources. I feel that World Economic Forum. Please do read all of that. They say that globally there are four major trends. One is at the organizational level. 52% of the company executives whom they interviewed across the globe say that the national economies in which they operate are really hit bad. 10% decline is what has happened. Now, when it comes to the second aspect, which is jobs, roughly around 60%, 20 to 60% of the people across the globe have a feeling that they might lose a job. Sectors, almost every sector, there's hardly a sector which is not affected. Attitudes, that's a ray of hope. Attitude is that, this is the executives' response to the survey that they conducted globally. Most of them are optimistic that the business would be normal or working on site would happen by December 2020. Yeah, so that's the kind of global scenario. I was giving a Indian perspective, is also this is a global perspective to how the business has to kind of adapt to, or business has to consider what aspects has to be considered if they are looking for building resilience. So I kind of done with only my first part of presentation, which is the triage. Triage, I'm again repeating, what's triage? How do we prioritize what needs to be addressed? There are a couple of things. As I said, it is not just the pandemic. It is the global, the technological revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, which has brought in a lot of uncertainty, and also the current pandemic, which is, has compelled us to kind of prioritize and think about what should be done and what is working and what is not working. Yeah, let's look at the second aspect. I don't know by what time I'll be able to. I'm so sorry for all the participants. You'll have to extend a bit more because I've also invited two of my students who will be sharing their experience. So I would need some more time, provided the host and the organizers also permit, because there are two more aspects to be covered. Second is about the transition. What is the transition which is happening? I'll try my best rushing things, but if at all there is a kind of spillover, please do bear with me, because I intend to create an impact. I intend to have a sort of a purpose with which I'm driving this conversation is little different, because we need to have some meaningful takeaways, which will happen only towards the end of this conversation. Yeah. So let's look at the second aspect, which is the transition phase of business. Now, what is the transition I'm talking about? Have business transitioned in the past decade? If yes, how? I'll do a quick exercise and we would kind of sense what I'm trying to say. Car sales has gone down, but Ola and Uber is rising. Restaurants are closing, food delivery is increasing. Tuition classes are decreasing, but online, especially Byju's. Now, traders are struggling, marketplace is striving. Demand is down, consumption is high. Old commission business is struggling, online service is rising. Cell phone bills are going down, internet penetration is up. Now, government jobs are decreasing, especially in Bangalore, cities like Bangalore and a lot of other metro cities. Startup jobs are kind of picking up quite a lot. So what is it that, so you ask your friends who are working, who are running business, most of them, they would say that, no, the business is really dull. But if you look at the global impact of what is happening, things are all normal. I mean, I'm just giving you a kind of ray of hope that everything is not down. What we need to understand here is, it is not the business or the economy which is struggling, only the business models are changing. So most of the business organizations will have to rethink and redefine and think about whether they are in the right track, whether what they're doing is actually what they should be doing. Yeah. So we need to understand things from four different perspectives. One is the usage of technology. How much technology is embedded into business? Second is about the economic aspect. How much of business am I able to create? There is a concept of value for many and value for money. We need to provide people the value for money is also value for many people. How do we create that? Social. How do we create a social balance, without much of employee poaching, without much of, cutting down your staff? The last aspect is the planet. How do we effectively utilize the resources? That's the planet, because planet is something that gives us a lot of resources. So we need to understand and look at organization from these four perspectives. One is technology, second is economic. What sort of economic impact does it have? Third is the social implications of your business. And the last one is about the planet and the resource. So let me give you a hope here. I'll skip this slide. Sorry for this. Do you know that there is something common in these three companies, Airbnb, Uber, and Alibaba? All of these companies were started during a crisis. Airbnb and Uber was post 2007 financial crisis. People were looking, most of them lost job. They were looking for an additional source of income, and they had certain things to be rented out. And if you look at the business model, Airbnb and Uber, it all works on renting. And Uber is about renting cars. Airbnb is about renting your house, or could be a place, a location, or so both these business models evolved during a crisis. So is the case with Alibaba. We had, if you remember, there was a SARS virus. Alibaba had come to the market in 1999, but post SARS virus, people were looking for online deliveries. That's where this business group picked up the market, and the rest is history. In fact, there was a stage where even they have surpassed the business of even Amazon. So Airbnb, Uber, and Alibaba, that's the common thread there, all of them. So what I'm trying to say here is business organizations, governments, individuals, all of that is going to change post-crisis, and provided you find an opportunity in building something that you're good at. Then how do you do that? It's a time, the time that we've currently got is a time to sit back. I began the conversation with Kloeb's experience. And it's a time for us to sit back and reflect on what we are doing. So, and find opportunities, rather create opportunities. Are there resilient business models? Well, again, I have a couple more of examples. There is a common thread in all of these companies. All had started during a crisis. So business is possible to flourish even amidst crisis, even during crisis. Microsoft, HP, IBM, CNN, General Motors, FedEx, Apple, Disney, all of those companies, go back to the history of those companies, you would find that they have all flourished, or either they've started or they've all flourished during a crisis. So economies have changed, business organizations have changed, even amidst crisis. I'll skip a couple of slides. Now, let me take a few examples which I feel is relevant. Amazon, it's not just an online store now. We started off with the fourth industrial revolution. One of the things which has become very common these days is drone. Amazon started Prime Air Delivery, which is a drone delivery. Within 30 minutes of your order, the product is delivered at your doorstep. Now, if you take Tesla, they've started a factory of machines making machines. There is zero human intervention. It's 25 kilometers of this. Now, I got this example when I was having an interaction yesterday with my good friend, Srinath Murchilot, who's started this holography technology in India. Now, he was stating that there is zero human intervention there. You don't need people at all in this factory. Tesla is on the go. Elon Musk defies, even during lockdown, they could reopen because you don't need people there. You just need a technology to run. If you look at jobs, there is this Yanu, which is a bartender. Bartender means that's another job which is taken away by technology. So it's a very easily relatable example. Robot restaurant. We have one in Indiranagar. I've been there, an amazing experience. Just for an experience, we've been there. I think it started in Chennai first, and then they opened a branch in Bangalore, Indiranagar. So there are the ones who serve are robots. In fact, in Kerala also, there's a film star called Manian Pillaraju. He is the one who had started a restaurant where you have robots serving. So it's becoming extremely common. Look at the different kind of sectors where technology is being used, is getting replaced. How do you build a resilient business model amidst all this? Bandicoot. I don't want to spend much time. This is a replacement of the manhole cleaning using the artificial intelligence and humanoid technology. Robots are cleaning. So a lot of jobs will, this is a team behind that. Drones and AI is also used for precision farming. So in farming also, that's enough. So different segments and sectors, the Tata Consultancy is the one who has done that, and the kind of result that they've come up with is much better than conventional traditional farming. Recently, the most recent example is Geoglass. Geo literally killed the telecom industry. The launch of Geo killed a lot of companies, Airtel, Vodafone. They're all literally, they actually create a red ocean. I hope you know, you are aware of what is blue ocean strategy and red ocean. They created a red ocean, and which make all other competitors completely irrelevant in the business. So it is amidst all this, the bigger giants have already started doing it. Smaller business groups have slowly getting involved in these technologies. So how do you kind of build a resilience amidst technological, there are examples. That is, so those were examples from the fourth industrial revolution kind of challenges. Now I have a few examples of how some of the companies have dealt with during the recent crisis, which is the pandemic. Now, there are 4 examples which I have taken from, again, the same report, Reimagining the Post-Pandemic Organization, which is published in May 15, again by McKinsey. One fast food chain, they did partnering with a health and wellness retailer. Yeah, and that was one way of building a resilience. The other one is one large retailer dusted off a pre-pandemic initiative to launch a curbside delivery business. So completely. So sometimes you'll have to partner with something which you've never experimented earlier. That is one strategy during a crisis, to build a resilience for your organization. Another is they have to scrap your ideas sometimes. The third is about giving work from home option, which most of the organizations have done. This is a financial services company, which in 2 days, they trained 1,000 of their employees and made them capable of working from home. The last strategy, which I mean, some of the recent examples of how organizations have dealt with is redeploying the staff. They trained, there's this retail conglomerate in the Middle East, which has redeployed people in different sectors. That could be another strategy. So I'm just giving you perspectives on how organizations have adopted technology and how business organizations are dealing with or kind of building resilience to deal with the crisis of pandemic. So I'm done with the first 2. I would need another half an hour more, but meantime, I have my students also come who would be sharing their wealth of experience, on ground experience. Yeah. So I'll quickly finish this. So triage is what we have seen. Transition of business organization is also what we have seen, both the fourth industrial revolution related as also the pandemic related. What is the transition, which experiments which organizations are doing? Let's look at the transformation. What is the transformation which organization has to move towards? Yeah? Okay. When I say this, we need to understand that hope is not a strategy. Hope is just an aspiration. We have to actually practice something which is feasible. We need to plan for it. We need to work on it. Yeah, you can't just aspire. Prayer is an aspiration. You have to also work on it. Work hard to build some strategize. You need to strategize. So this strategizing can be either in reforming or in restructuring or removing things which you've done earlier. But the sad part is, this is a study done by the Harvard, one is the professor, and the report which came in Harvard Business Review 3 years back, which says that only 8% of the company executives are capable of strategizing capable at both strategizing and also execution, which means there is a serious problem there. And how do we address that? I mean, that's something which I'll be spending some time on before I give time to my students. So our organizations, the first question we need to address is, our organization preparing for the future shop? If yes, how? Now, we spoke about the first aspect, which is the fourth industrial revolution and the chaos and the confusion, the VUCA related. But is there an antidote to VUCA? You know, if you can create an antidote to VUCA, that is where you can strategize, and that is how you can strategize and plan for it. The antidote to VUCA is the volatility has to be looked at as creating a vision, anticipate issues and shape conditions. Uncertainty has to deal with understanding the consequences of decisions that you're making and also take actions for it. The third is about creating a clarity and conviction, not just for your employees, but also for your customers, for your every stakeholder. You need to have a clarity and conviction and build a coherence, aligning expectations and checking for a good understanding of all the people in your organization. The last aspect is about build an agile business. That's how organizations can, from a VUCA of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, create an organization of vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. That's one way of looking at it, how to deal with the fourth industrial revolution. Many organizations have done that. Amazon Go, they've already introduced most of the technologies which we normally discuss in the fourth industrial revolution. Amazon Go, you just need to go there, grab your product and come out. I mean, the money gets deducted from your pocket. You don't need to stand in queue. Everything is done using the technologies. Yeah, I was conducting a workshop in 2014, thanks to Asif Khayyam Patil, one of my good friend, who had hosted an event of giving training to some of the entrepreneurs in Kerala. And that time, one of the participants said, "Sir, you must read about the HDFC Bank. They've bought 20 robots and they're planning to employ them as the front office managers. Imagine 20 front office managers are getting replaced at HDFC Bank, assuming there are 2,000 branches across India, 2,000 front office managers are going to going to lose their job. Yeah. So HDFC. So it's not something which is happening in US or UK. It has actually reached our doorstep. And I spoke about Indus International School, which has employed one faculty in profession of teaching. It has become Bengaluru has got a vending machine for Pani Puri. It is not just a vending machine. It's actually an integration of all the technologies that we get to see in the fourth industrial revolution. So my question here is, aren't we actually at a convergence point? Convergence point of technology, convergence point of creating newer opportunities for out of this crisis, out of this pandemic. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Yeah, I don't want to create much of a discussion here because one of the questions which we should all ask ourselves is, amidst all the fourth industrial revolution, at an individual level and at the organizational level, how do we stand unique? How do we stand relevant? Now, there are a couple of things we need to understand. Common sense, intuition, creativity, empathy, and versatility are human traits which no technology can substitute, which means those are the things on which you need to work on. I mean, large data sets, I spoke about accounting jobs, I spoke about lawyers, spoke about a lot of other professions which are dealing with large complex calculations, data sets would all get automated. You don't need people there. You may not need people there. Now, how do we stand relevant? There is another report, World Economic Forum, which kind of compiled the different skill sets needed for us to survive or stand relevant. And there are three companies which I wanted to quote here: Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. I consider them as, and of course, everyone would, I'm sure, would agree that those are futuristic companies who consider three traits: learnability, being curious, and hungry to, yeah. So that's hungry to, a hungry mind is what are the key indicators. You don't need to be a paper qualified to become a Google. You don't need a degree from an MIT or Stanford, or if you're good with creating some value for the organization. A lot of my students are working. Abhay Rao is based out of San Francisco, who's working. Debarge Das is also working. All of them say, we are not looking for paper qualification. We are people looking at people who can actually deliver value for the organization. So this is going to be the future. Like, you don't need actually a university degree for getting a job. Yeah. So a common thread which I've found in, see, there are different reports by Economic Forum, Forbes, LinkedIn, McKinsey, all of that finds a common thread. One is creativity, the other one is collaboration, ability to think critically, communicate effectively, and the last one is emotional intelligence. These are personal traits which makes organization. So at an individual level and also the organizational, are you creating workspaces which kind of nurtures these traits, which kind of nurtures these, a couple of things I prefer to skip here, but before I give time to, let me quickly share one aspect, considering the current pandemic that we are currently in. This is a time where every organization would be doing a soul searching, because a lot of things get judged by your clients, your customers. One primarily is about the value, second is about the purpose and the culture. These are of course imperatives even in normal times. Let's call it a normal time, because before pandemic, but this is something which will get tested now. Because how many organizations are retaining their employees? How are they treating their employees? I'm so sorry to say that some of my students are working in one of the college in Bangalore, very reputed college. They were made to work for 3 months, and their future now is uncertain. All of them are asked to leave with no salary for 3 months, which could become, I was sharing this with one professor at IIM Bangalore, and he said, Rishi, this is a time when the ethics of organization, the value of organization will be judged by the clients and their customers, right? Now, how you treat people during a crisis speaks volumes about what organization you are. But on the whole, the fundamental principle is the real asset of organization is the people. Everything else is secondary. With people, you can rebuild. Everything else is secondary. Technology is secondary. Infrastructure is secondary. So how you treat your employees amidst all this crisis is something which would get judged during this crisis. So the purpose, what you stand for, and the values that you stand for, and the culture that you kind of nurture to make employees stay united and stand up for a cause would survive this pandemic. Survive this crisis. So I'll just kind of summarize my slide using a few bullet points. Few things are going to be really critical for business organization. One is how you deal with consumer anxiety and employee anxiety. Consumers, whether I'll be getting the same quality of service and product which I was enjoying before pandemic. Employees, whether I'll have my job, you have to deal with it. Second, work from home might become a common norm, because several organizations did research and studies, and the McKinsey report, this was a report by Deloitte, which says that roughly around 40% of the people would prefer continue working from home. So do you have strategies devised? And in fact, I was talking to Professor Ashley, who's a professor at St. Stephen's today morning. I was talking to him, and he said, see, the labor unions are actually in a threat, because of the social distancing norms. Will there be collective bargaining? Will there be labor unions, trade unions functioning? How they are going to, and what is their future? We need to have a discussion on that. Similarly, the employees' collective bargaining power would go down because a lot of people would become unemployed, and this work from home option would also give newer revenues for people to look for greener pastures. So work from home, the point which I'm trying to bring in here is work from home might become a new norm. data becomes an important source. Every data that you kind of like, share, comment is getting captured. Let me share one personal example. I booked a ticket to travel to Delhi using Paytm. And as and when the days neared, I started getting messages from Ola and Uber. I had never informed that I'm traveling on such and such date. I'm traveling from Christ University, Kampagowda airport and using a cab, but they got to know. How? Someone at the back end has sold this data to this company. So data is becoming larger. The data, the larger the money, larger the data, the larger the business. Data is getting captured. Data becomes extremely important in business decision making. That's another big change which is going to happen. Agile business, how quickly you make your decisions is going to, how quickly you transform your business is another decisive factor. Flexibility, adaptability, and agility. 3 aspects would decide the future of organization. Another important thing, the most important thing, is about the changes in consumer behavior. That's going to happen. Now, how many of you, I think you're not able to see me, I'm wearing a t-shirt. Yeah. How many, and because I'm working from home, but how many of us, when was the last time that you all wore a suit or a tie or a shoe? I mean, the demand for those products have come down. As and when our lifestyle changes, our consumption patterns are also change. Our buying patterns, so consumer behavior certainly is going to change post-pandemic and until it gets resolved. So another thing extremely important is surveillance. I don't want to mention the name of the country because tomorrow I might even get targeted. One country close to China, not mentioning where it is, had captured the data of all their citizens to track the people who are spreading the virus. And they've captured the data of almost every individual, every citizen there. Do you think post-pandemic they would leave that? Which means surveillance of the authorities, surveillance by institutions, surveillance by the government is going to continue for long. Which means there is nothing called private that, just as Mark Zuckerberg had said, in front of technology, all of us are stripped naked. So surveillance is going to continue. Another thing is about the new health norms, face mask, and a lot of other kind of new health norms which has come is going to stay for long. Okay, I'll skip a lot of slides here. And one thing what is going to major business changes, the last point which I wanted to discuss is rhythmic workplaces would become the future. What is rhythmic workplace? I'll take the example of Apple. Apple has a team space, which is the actual office space. They have a me space, which is the work from home. They have an open space. Anywhere you could work from a co-working space, from a park or a lobby or a cafe, anywhere. And then they also have a virtual space. They're holistic connected. So this could be the new business model, new working model for organizations. And the 8th aspect, which before I invite my students to interact with you all, is about the innovations which are going to happen. Yeah. How many of you have heard about this? Uber Eats. I'm sure you would have. In Europe, it's quite common. If you've traveled to Europe, stripping is common. Pubs are common. Naked dance is common. So there were a lot of strippers who were finding it difficult to find an alternative source of income because of social distancing norms. The pubs or the places where you strip use aren't functioning. So what they did is they ventured into Uber Eats. They would go bare breast and deliver the products, which they've partnered with a delivery unit, and this is how they did it. It's working wonders. With clubs, it's working wonderful. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of business are going to evolve post-pandemic. If you are having an idea which is very creative and innovative, it's also a time for innovation. Let's say, for instance, if you can help somebody convert their conventional brick and mortar business to online business, if you have an expertise, and that is one opportunity, you can create a business model. E-learning is becoming a new trend. That could be another business model. cleaning and sanitizing, on-demand luxury, laundry and cleaning. I mean, if you can create such a business model, that could be another business model. Then content creators, YouTubers and podcasters. You know, a couple of my friends, of my students, Vishal Anand Reddy, he was a live performer and that was his only source of income. He's doing a lot of shows these days. And it was retweeted by, one of the most popular singer in Bangalore and also in India. And there is another guy called Shankar Patnabhan. He is into podcasting. He does something called the Writers and Geek. That's becoming quite popular because he found them. So those kind of business models are becoming quite common. Now I was referring to Raghu Dikshit. Raghu Dikshit has tweeted Vishal Anand Reddy. So people are creating newer models, newer business ideas are evolving amidst all this crisis. Digital marketing, e-commerce delivery, most of the conventional traditional business models are, two of my students who are coming are from two different segments. You know, what they will be talking about is their experience of how they dealt with this crisis and what is the future. Yeah, I'll introduce them once I'm done with. So most of the organizations will have to focus on three aspects. That's the future. One is about cloud computing, creating a virtual space where people could work, connect, and create business models. Like we are connected through Zoom platform. Zoom is a beautiful, virtual workspace. Automation and artificial intelligence will become the norm of the day. Resilience and agility, quickly making decisions. Okay, now I would invite Rishabh Dubey, who's one of my good students, whom I always say that if I have students like Rishabh Dubey or Ayush Malayo, I would never regret the decision of becoming a teacher, because for me, teaching was not a chance, it was a choice. I've made my choice, and that choice I would never regret, because those are the ones who've made a great impact in their life. And Rishabh is he started this advertising company back in Bangalore about 7 years back, and he's currently employing 20 or 30 plus people. He's just 26, 27. And his client base is kind of Reliance, and you just can't imagine the kind of names. And I often call them and have conversation just to learn a lot, because there are a lot of things that we can learn from our students because they are practicing what we are preaching in the classroom. So I now invite, if Rishabh is online, just to come and share your experience is about how this pandemic has been for you, and how you've dealt with your employees, how you're dealing with your clients, and a lot of other things, whatever you wish to share with the participants here. Can we have Rishabh? Are you there?
Rishikesh, sir, yes.
Wonderful, great. Can we begin? Good time to begin?
Yeah, so what should I do now?
Okay, so Rishabh, I want you to talk about Moshi Moshi, how you've dealt with the current pandemic, and what is the kind of business opportunities that you've got. Moshi Moshi is an advertising firm, is what I understand. Probably you could explain further.
Okay, I'll just unmute him, sir.
Okay.
Kindly wait.
All right.
Hello.
You're on.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sir, I was not talking. I don't know who was there.
Okay, great, wonderful.
Thanks a lot, sir. First of all, for introducing me. Just a quick change. We are a 80 plus employee company, and we are 1,000 plus employees, 1,000 plus clients company. And company started 5 years back. I'll quickly brief. So we are actually in the middle of the whole event which is happening, which is Corona, the whole situation. We are in the middle of it because we are a communication company and we are helping companies communicate completely. There are 2-3 unique things that we did during this pandemic. First of all, I will just brief about what we did for, I'm sure everyone knows about Ministry of Ayush. Host, can you allow me to share my screen if possible, please?
Definitely. Just give me a second so that I can make you a co-host.
Yeah, please.
Right.
So allow me to share my screen so that I can show certain things.
Yeah, fine. Now you are co-host and you have the facility to share the screen.
Sure.
And Rishikesh sir, can you
Yes.
kindly stop the sharing?
I'll do that.
Yeah, fine.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it's getting ready. Yeah, fine. Very good. Good.
Yeah, if you see this, so this is the event that we recently ran for Ministry of Ayush, the International Day of Yoga. First time in the world, because of COVID, people were not able to do yoga, and this event came up, and Ministry of Ayush approached us to handle this complete event. So we have handled this event where yoga had to be done from home, and this event was called My Life My Yoga. It was a video blogging competition which was conducted. We created a web application where all the entries have to be taken online, and these entries were processed, and then judgments were done. This became the India's largest video making competition, the video blogging competition. We received 40,000 plus entries, 40,000 plus videos, which is very difficult. Video making is a tough task. Indians are very conscious about videos because this was of various age groups. Various age groups were participating, and all over the world, people were participating in this. We reached more than 350 million people via this complete competition, which was a very good number. So this completely what happened, we transformed the whole concept of doing yoga. Since people were not able to come out of home, we conducted this competition where social media people were uploading these videos, and this video has various prizes, right? The prize winners were there, 1,50,000, 25,000 prizes. We received 40,000 plus applications. So the whole entry or segment, we received entries from all over the world just because of this. So if you see a government organization who's not much on digital, not much on online, they came up with something which is very unique. This whole competition was created within a month. The whole web application was created, the backend panel was created, everything was done, and the whole event ran on a digital platform. And Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Hello, all these applications were used to promote the whole event. So if you see how the world transformed from a source where we always thought yoga will happen face to face and yoga is more of a physical appearance thing, it happened completely digitally. And this thing was completely held and managed by Moshi Moshi. Another thing that I would like to talk about is the current campaign that we are launching all over India. Moshi Moshi has already worked with 1,000 plus brands all over the world. We have worked with clients like Ola, Reliance, Zoomcar, ITC, and all these brands. We help these brands communicate. We are launching this new campaign. This is happening tomorrow. This is a nationwide campaign where we are helping brands go online. Sir was briefing a lot of things about products and stuff like that. You need to understand half of the brands who are offline are not very strong on branding. They don't have a very strong brand presence. They don't know what is a brand. We are launching this unique initiative where we are helping brands completely go online. They get a digital plan. We are providing a 360-degree digital solution for the brand. These are few obvious reasons where you have to go online. Your offline inventory is piling up. 500 active online users are there just in India. Shops will need social distancing. Websites don't. Your footfalls are reducing. 68% of buyers are actually searching online whenever they are buying your product, even offline. And there is obvious reason, which is COVID. For sure, all these reasons are there. In this, we are helping brands end-to-end completely do all these things, right from brand consultancy to website to video to photo shoot. We have divided in 3 separate phases and digital marketing. We have already taken hundreds of brands online because of this. And this is how we are completely transforming and we are actually heading this whole event, and we are even getting partnerships. So we are in talks with getting partnerships with Amazon, Dunzo, Razorpay, all these tertiary platforms who are going to help people go online. If I have to go online, I need a website. For a website, I will need a delivery partner. Dunzo will come in. If I want to sell in other platforms, Amazon will come in. If I want to sell in, let's say, if I need a payment platform for accepting payments, Razorpay is going to come in. So we are partnering with various organizations who help companies go online, and we will provide a 360-degree digital plan. And that's how Moshi Moshi is growing. And that we are running a lot of, I'll tell you few ads. Sir was telling that he booked Ola, and he booked the flight and how Ola picked him. So this is nothing but custom intent audience. We do something like this. We do every day on a day. This is our bread and butter. We do ads. So just a simple thing. We are running few COVID related ads. All the things that I told you, these are remarketing ads. Whenever you come to Moshi Moshi, after that, forever you will be targeted with these ads, and you will see these ads everywhere. Try this once, search for advertising agencies in India or Bangalore. See once Moshi Moshi comes in, go to the website and then see for the next 30 days how we will be retargeting you and showing you ads. These are few ads that we are running and we are getting superb response because this is on-face content. I'm telling you 2020 ho chuka hai, lockdown is there, declining sales, active online users. Do you need more reasons to go online? Unlock 1 is 10% of your customers, unlock 2 is 15. It will take time to reach 100, but you can reach 100 directly by going online. Customers have changed their shopping address. Have you? Are you changing? So all these things are content which is related to the brand. So that's what the brand is. To be precise, we are actually heading this whole environment of taking brands online. We have brands coming in who have never used anything apart from WhatsApp when it comes to digital space. We have transformed few brands. I'll tell you a brand which was into surgical equipments and all these products, which was directly supplying B2B, came to us a few months back, and then we have transformed their brand. I will show you their. This is the company, Venus Surgical. This brand came to us with just a logo and they were a B2B brand. We have transformed that brand, created their website. Currently, they have recently launched a thing called a safety kit. So just like you're going to travel, you will need kits and stuff like that. All these things are done by us. The whole website is designed by us. We have done their website. We are doing their digital marketing. And I'm happy to tell you, within a week, we have touched a very good amount of sales just for this brand. We have created their videos and stuff like that. Brands are coming. They are coming back to us with a problem and we are helping them with a solution. And that's how digital is happening. Brands do not have good knowledge about what has to be done on digital because it requires a certain skill set that they don't have. They know good about their business. They don't know good about how selling will happen on digital. And that's how we are coming into picture. And that's how Moshi Moshi is helping them. Even if you see this video, all these things are done by us.
Rishabh, can we wrap up in 1 minute? And we have Ayush also sharing about Ayush. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think I have any other thing. If anyone has any questions, please shoot and I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that towards the end of the session.
Yeah.
Can we have Ayush now? Ayush Malail.
I have stopped sharing. I hope my screen is out.
Yes, you're right. But no, Rishabh, it's still there. We'll have to stop sharing.
Ayush, I hope you can hear me.
Ayush?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great.
Hi. Yeah, good afternoon. Hi, hello, sir.
Yeah.
So,
am I audible?
Yes, you are. I'll just quickly introduce Ayush. Ayush also started a venture while he was a student. The first year he started, and he's into selling shawarmas, and he started something very unique, Just Shawarma, which I'm guessing has around close to 20 branches across Bangalore now, and is also planning to expand to other cities. In a short span, the way they've transitioned from a small unit close to our campus to 20 plus, close to 20 branches is something really inspiring. I want you to speak about how you dealt with your employees. What was the crisis management strategies that you had, not just with your employees, but with your finance, but with your branches, everything, logistics. Yes, probably five minutes.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you so much. It was great to listen to Rishikesh, sir, after a really long time. Felt like we were getting back to our college days. All right. So coming to our part of the discussion, we have 26 outlets in Bangalore by the name Just Shawarma. We are catering, means we have a team of 50 plus employees, and we have a group of 15 franchisees as well. As sir gave you the balance of introduction, let me not take much time. All of you should be hungry, going for your lunch. So now coming to the point where sir asked me about how we are facing this pandemic situation. It is indeed a time when all of us, or all businesses, even ourselves, we had to re-strategize or reinvent our businesses. The businesses which is not turning or not adapting to sustainable ways, or not adapting to minimal expenses, minimal cost structures, they are getting affected badly. So God's grace, our concept has always been planned out in a way where the overheads were really low. And that was what, in fact, helped us scale up as well, to the extent that we have scaled up today. Now, current scenario, if you look at it, one of the most important factors that we have had, or which has helped us thrive the situation, is the communication that we have had with all our employees at the first place, and with all stakeholders, including our franchisees, and also with our suppliers or our vendors who provide credit, or who provide the supplies to us. So the communication has been very clear with all the stakeholders involved in the business. We've been having week-on-week communications with all stakeholders. That is one of the reasons, and the good, the relationship that we've had with all our vendors and all stakeholders, including our landlords, everything is something that is helping us to come out of this situation in a phased out manner. We have re-strategized the outlets in terms of putting hold on the operations of certain outlets which were slightly not profitable. Even if outlets were bleeding a little bit, we moved quite a few outlets nearby locations where there are supermarkets, basically, because that is the only place where there is crowd gathering in today's scenario. The online business is happening. These are certain changes that we have done, which I am communicating with you all in terms of moving few kiosks. Basically, the outlets which were within the tech parks were not doing well due to this pandemic situation. In fact, there were a lot of them had to be shut as well. To be precise, 6 outlets had to be shut because of the tech parks being shut. So we moved these outlets to nearby supermarkets where we are able to do good revenue. So we had the complete infrastructure. We just transferred the infrastructure from these locations and operating at these locations. Also, there is something in disguise, or, as Sir said, all businesses have to be flexible and dynamic in terms of adapting to the situation and changes. What we did is also simultaneously, so I'll be getting in touch with Rishabh as well to help us take it digital. We'll be launching another vertical by the 14th of August, which will be into marinated meats. The brand is going to be called Just Marinated, wherein we will be using live tumbling setups at supermarkets, and the deliveries would happen over the delivery channels like Dunzo, etc. Also, live deliveries means walk-ins and takeaways can also take the products. So those are certain points that is specific to how the pandemic we've been dealing. Is there anything more, sir, you want me to cover?
Wonderful. I think you've done justice to what you were expected to. Thank you very much for that. I'll go back to my presentation now. Probably I'll take another 5-10 minutes to just wind up, summarize the ideas that both of them have shared. Can I have the sharing right now? Wonderful. Yeah. So that was Rishabh. You can see the one on the left, on the left side of this picture is Rishabh and his partner Ajay Bothra. They both started Moshi Moshi and is doing a brilliant job. For them, yesterday when I spoke to him, he said this is a Christmas time for us because this is when most of the organizations are going online. Yeah. So the other one is Just Shawarma, started by Ayush Mane. They were the ones with. So what was a basic change which I see more as an academician? What is a basic shift which is happening in organizations? Number one is purpose in words to purpose in action. It's time, your glossy letter, well-written mission statements are good only on, that's not where it should be. You have to take some concrete action. This is a time for that. I think from self-interest, we need to act like a leader. Most organizations are, those who are looking for change, transitions, will have to come up with some strategies which are quite unique, which nobody else can emulate. Competitors to alliance partnership. This is not a time to compete, but to collaborate and cooperate, alliance partnerships, and then purely traditional to relevant products and services which which are recent and which employees actually need. Focus on profit to focus on creating an impact for. That's a broader picture which I wanted to bring in, customer to customer in society. But if nothing has happened, at least this would happen. That's the probably 3 or 4 slides before my final slide. Who led the digital transformation of your organization? It may not be the chief executive officer or CTO. It will be the COVID. I mean, this is bound to happen. That's one thing. And the other thing that, as I've been emphasizing, is most organizations will have to think that life and livelihood matters above profit and balance sheet. Of course, profit is needed. That's, that you're not doing a charity that, but that also, how you deal with your employees, how you maintain customer loyalty also matters even during this crisis. I mean, how you do that is a different ball game. Couple of things before I wind up is, it's a time to reset. It's actually a God-given time to reset, and this reset can happen if I may go with the McKinsey again in 4 different phases: resolving the immediate problems, building resilience, returning back to, if not the normal, the old normal. I mean, I was listening to WHO, the chief of WHO. He said there is no returning back to old normal. It's a new normal world order, so we'll have to return back to that, reimagine the way we are functioning, and also reforming. I mean, that's another brilliant article which companies need to transform how they do it. Please do read that. You would find very, very interesting. Now, I'm just summarizing before I want both Rishabh and Ayush also to stay for some time, because we might be getting some questions. Before I summarize, my question is, are you a dinosaur? That's the kind of metaphorical way of concluding my presentation. What happened with dinosaur? And there's something which is quite strange why it became extinct. Dinosaur is one animal which had a very weak sensory organ. If something happens at the back of its body, maybe something happens at the tail, it takes a lot of time to reach its head, not because of its mammoth size, but because its sensory organs were really weak. So what happened is, it couldn't adapt to the changes that happened around. So what matters actually in change is your adaptability. How quick you respond to the change is something which matters. So this is a time, I think we've been discussing this quite often. This is a time to sit back and reflect on how to change and why we should change and what to change, 4 Ws and 5 Ws and 1X. And those are questions which you have to keep on asking yourself. And with that, I conclude and take time for some questions if there are any. We'll address the questions now. I want both Ayush and also Rishabh to come online so that we could do this jointly. I'm guessing
Thank you, Hrishikesh sir, and I would like to call in Mr. Vikas sir to continue with the session.
Great.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Vikas sir, you're on.
Yes, sir, I am here. Sir, this is a time for discussion. So if anybody have any queries, you can post or either unmute yourself and ask.
So if you have any specific questions, either based on what I've been discussing or what Rishabh has shared, Rishabh has a wealth of experience on how to transform organizations digitally. Ayush comes with experience of managing around 26 different branches and how he's dealt with his employees, how he's managed his finances, how his logistics. It's not easy at this young age. He's managing 26 different branches. It's not something which we need to discount on. I mean, lots of things we can learn. That's why I always maintain conversations once a while with both Rishabh and Ayush. So let's build the conversation. If there is any question, very specific questions.
Sir, one Ruben Vincent is raising his hands.
All right.
Subin sir, let
Ruben,
unmute.
I'm trying to.
Ruben.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute you, Ruben.
Ruben
Yeah.
sir, please ask.
Yeah, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, Ruben sir. Hello.
Yeah, this is the question to the second student who spoke, Rishikesh sir. I want to know what are the HR policies he adopted in his organization during this COVID? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
you
sir.
are.
Yes, sir.
The
Ayush,
question is
sir.
to the second student. What are the HR
Ayush.
policies
Yeah.
he adopted during the COVID?
Ayush, you have to unmute.
Ayush, sir.
Ayush has to be.
Ayush,
Yes,
Ayush,
yes.
Yeah,
I'm trying
thank you,
to
thank
unmute.
you.
Yeah, now you're
I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
fine, fine.
Yeah, the host has unmuted me. Yeah. So answering your question, so we followed a no layoffs policy during this pandemic situation. Even during the phase of a complete shutdown where we had no revenues coming in, we preferred to operate by honoring the living wages or living expenses to all employees, and continuing the operations rather than having any layoffs in the business. God's grace, till date, it has been continuing in similar pattern. The last month we had to have a 25% cut in the salaries for team members, wherein we ourselves or the managing partners or we the core members of the team, we have taken an almost an 85% salary cut in our salaries. So we are managing things like that with the HR policies.
If there are any pertinent
I
questions,
hope that
more-
answers the question. Yeah.
anything pertinent.
Any more question?
So in that case, I think I've exceeded the time that was allotted to me quite a lot, probably around 20 minutes. I'm so sorry for that, but
Yeah, that's
unless
not
and
a
until-
problem, sir. Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
So we have a question from Galaxy M11. I don't know what that person's name is, but the question is, I'll just read it out.
Yes, sir.
Does technology affect the automobile industries at the current time by adopting automation devices? I'll
I
just
think-
read it out again. Does technology affect the automobile industries at the current time by adopting automation devices?
Rishabh, any inputs on that?
I first need to understand technology affect automobile companies, you are telling.
Yes, yes. Is that affecting is what his question is?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Technology is affecting automobile companies by adopting new technology, is telling, or new devices.
Yes. Technologies like probably
So
humanoids.
just to put things into perspective, most of the companies are trying to use electric as an approach. I was just having Elon Musk interview. I was just seeing his TED talk again. Most of the companies who were telling that electric vehicles will not work have invested in his company in like after that 5 years once it worked out. So this is how it is. Technology will work if you use the right technologies, and if you know it is going to be there, technology will definitely help you out. So that's the idea. Technology will definitely affect it, but you can use it and get the best output out of it. That's what I say. Rishikesh sir, anything that you want to add?
Probably, I think it's better that we kind of wind up here because we've exceeded the time, and I can take the questions or anything that the participants want to ask offline. And so it's
No,
my
sir.
screen.
No question from offline.
Okay. We could take those questions later.
Okay.
So is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just concluding with my last slide. There's a concept called cognitive dissonance, which is if I've created cognitive dissonance in you, I think, I'm just quoting my another favorite professor at OB professor at IIM Kozhikode. If a session ends with a cognitive dissonance, what is cognitive dissonance? You have contradictory views about the same thing. You're confused. I think that's the success of a session, because you will be compelled to read and understand more. So I hope I've created that cognitive dissonance in all of you. And that's my contact. If you want to stay in touch or kind of extend this conversation in any other ways, probably through email or through any other personal chats, I'm available. And let's build this network of roughly around 700 plus people who are watching it online, both through this platform as also through YouTube. to kind of build conversations, because I believe it is through conversations that we could bring about change. So thank you very much once again for this opportunity. Thank you, Rishabh and Ayush, for joining us. Thanks to all the participants, thanks to the host, to the organization, particularly the management, the principal, and whoever has worked and made this possible. Thanks a lot.
Okay, sir, 1 second. Now I am inviting one of our student coordinator, Mr. Atul Chand, for the vote of thanks.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so Sir, please unmute Atul Chand.
Atul, you are on. You can
Atul.
speak now.
Good evening. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of Lisa College and PG Department of Commerce, I express vote of thanks to the honorable delegate authorities who blessed us with their presence and spent their valuable time with us on their busy schedule. First of all, I would like to thank our resource person, Professor Rishikesh KB, for conducting today's webinar. Thank you, sir, for your interesting and informative presentation. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence, sir. And we would also like to thank Mr. Rishabh and Mr. Ayush for their business experience. I would like to express our gratitude to Father Jos Melotukochil, CST Director of Lisa College, Dr. Benny Joseph, Principal of Lisa College, Father Bobby Pullolikal, CST Manager of Lisa College, and Father Niju Talachira, Vice Principal of Lisa College, for their motivation and guidance. I would like to thank our beloved HOD, Mr. Vikas George, and our faculty members for their encouragement and cooperation. And we would also like to express our special thanks to Mr. Melvin Thomas, Mr. Subin Varghese, and Mr. Gio Kapan for their technical support and assistance also. We are also happy to propose vote of thanks to all the participants, faculties of Lisa College, and the students who have made this webinar a grand success. We convey our heartfelt thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
all once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir. Okay, now the feedback form is available in our chat box. So all the participants can fill it and send it. So it is available in our chat box, Zoom chat box, for some more time. So you can copy the link from there. And YouTube also, in YouTube comment box also, our feedback form is available.
Sir, I hope all of us can leave. Rishabh, Ayush, me.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you on behalf of Commerce Department. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And Lijay sir also, special thanks to Lijay sir also. And thank you, Rishikesh sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you, sir. Participants can collect their forms from chat box and YouTube comment box. They can make a copy of this and submit. Within 3 hours, your certificate will reach you within 24 hours through mail. Those who copy the link, they can leave. Those who copy the link, they can leave the meeting. Those who copy the link, they can move. Sorry, they can leave.
And by this, we are stopping the live streaming for the YouTube.
Yes, sir. Thank you.